Right, good evening everybody. Tonight we are here. If you are joining us and you don't have load shedding, we are going to post this video live, as well as save it as a recorded video for you to watch a little bit later if you wish. Tonight we're discussing a course that's coming up in the next week and a half called Consciousness in Wonderland. And we're just going to discuss the course. We're working with a lot of new information, very different information to what we've previously covered in workshops. So just to give you a bit of insight into what the course entails and why it's a really great one to do. So, love, for the Consciousness in Wonderland, what made you give it that title? Because I know we were discussing the title for quite a while. What made you decide on calling it Consciousness in Wonderland?
So Wonderland, kind of inspired by Alice in Wonderland story. The Wonderland is the idea of the searching through our mind, searching through life, experiencing life in all different facets, and Wonderland seemed to just be an appropriate one for this, because what I'm essentially working with in the course is the different facets of life, and how it's all tied into our belief systems, how consciousness actually works with the expression of life, of our kind of personalities, of our existence. And then the Wonderland is the idea of basically discovering who you really are and the values of you. And we're hoping the course could actually spark some things. It's more like a workshop, so it's more interactive. So that it can spark some consciousness ideas, and also the concept of consciousness, to just give you a bit of an idea of how that works and how you're kind of impacted by life and the ideas around us, the belief systems that we actually hold in our different layers, and kind of like how it comes about in us and how we experience them and how we experience life through that.
So in the course, we had actually originally designed, we used to combine the alpha mind with belief systems, and belief systems section basically outgrew the alpha mind. We needed more time, so we set up a belief systems course, and actually in the production or creation of that course, it grew into something completely different. So just to touch on a few things that are very significant in the course, if we can just start with belief systems, if you can just give us a general idea as to, why are they, what are they, why are they important, and then also how do we learn about them in the workshop that can actually be a useful tool for us to implement into the changes or general life complement that we're wanting to work with.
So what we're working with, this part of the workshop, when it was tied into the alpha, I developed the combination of the alpha and the belief systems just with my experience with clients and working with a lot of personal growth clients that were really kind of like battling, and in the sessions when we were working with it from the energy medicine session side of things, we just don't have enough time to speak about things. So the consciousness workshop is all about being able to give you a platform to ask questions, to throw things out, work with ideas, get triggered, and then learn how to work with triggers. So with the personal growth clients, they needed a platform, so it's kind of like just a place where we need a platform where I can work a bit more with people on kind of like their health issues and their life issues and the kind of way we face things. So the whole idea of the workshop is literally that. It's to kind of, I'm working with many different platforms that come from both philosophical side and scientific side. So there's a lot of great science and scientists out there now that are kind of marrying the philosophical work with the consciousness side of things, and I mean the science side of things. So it's kind of like how the body works, how it actually interacts with things, how it programs, how the belief systems fit into that, and then how the consciousness works around that. So all of these things overlap, and it was just a big challenge to try and sort of fit it in enough time with people to work through their discussing their kind of things and the stuff they're working with. So the idea of the workshop is to give people like a day or two that they can then we can work with them and challenge different issues in life. As it goes with each workshop as well, it's some workshops will give you lots of sort of tools to work with, and others you'll get maybe one or two aha moments in that. Those ahas, and I'll teach you a bit about the aha moments as well and how valuable they are. So even if you did any kind of workshop and just got one aha idea of like something that impacts your life, you've actually won quite a bit.
What exactly is a belief system?
Belief system's a program, so it's kind of we run by programs. So we function similarly to a computer where we have programs that animate things in the different layers. For us, it's in the conscious mind and then the different subconscious layers. And the programs are essentially stored and recorded in your subconscious. And what your conscious mind is often doing in relation to what the subconscious has been programmed to work with is often two different things. So your belief systems are all the concepts, so everything that exists in this manifestation is essentially a belief system. So whether it's an idea of something, an ideology of something, an identity you wear, or whether it's a lamp or a chair or or a plant, they're all belief systems. So the belief system helps us. They both very, very important for us to exist in this life, and then at the same time they can be really fatal. They can actually kill you. So they can form things and impact on biology and things like that. So the idea of the workshop is to just help us also be able to get a bit of clarity and identify what the belief system is, how it works for you, and then how to actually in yourself, how you can actually in a sense decide where to put the belief system and where to work with that.
So the concept's not to get rid of them, but to try and work with them so that they're more in service of us and what we're wanting to achieve or dream or aspire to, that kind of concept.
Now the human body is quite a unique thing in the way that it can actually interact with things, and the way that it actually receives and works with information, and then essentially through that information that it works with and processes, belief system would be kind of the thing it connects with, or what people would sometimes call attaches to, as a kind of like ideology. So blue, we all know what blue is, but like is it blue kind of thing? So, and what does blue mean to one person in relation to another person? So for one person, blue might mean a sky, because they kind of associated their memory with that. For other people, it might be this little blue mat we have lying over here. For other people, it might be the ocean or water, whereas some people have arguments, no, it's not blue, it's turquoise, or no, it's actually brown today. So belief systems can also then end up in that way, where you might have a set of belief systems, I might have a set of belief systems, but I want to prove to you that my belief systems are better than yours, so sets of conflict.
Okay.
So the consciousness workshop, I'm hoping to actually sort of help people also see that conflict is formed by these ideologies, and where we're trying to force each other to believe what we are all about, and this creates a lot of insecurities and identity crises and all this kind of stuff. So it helps you. Belief systems are literally the tools that you use for life, so it's important to know your toolbox. It's important to kind of realize where your tools came from, what kind of tools they are. And are they quality tools in your life, or are they kind of redundant tools?
So where you mentioned where they come from in life, where do we actually get, because are there different sources of belief systems?
Yeah. So your belief systems, they come through different phases of being taught and what we call imprinted. So they come through our ancestral lines, they come through cultures, they come through sort of schooling experiences of different people with different ideas, stuff that you make up yourself as you have experiences as well. So it's kind of, if you're a very kind of antisocial person, you'll develop a certain set of belief systems as to how things work, whereas then you start mixing with people and then they have different ideas of how things work, and that's kind of how belief systems become the tools of life for each person. So the workshop is about helping you kind of connect with what your toolbox is about, and helping you to understand the consciousness effect or the consciousness behind those things. And when we talk about consciousness, the consciousness essentially helps us to, or being conscious. The idea of the consciousness workshop is to help you kind of realize the being conscious of the belief system you're working with, being conscious of the experience you're having, and connecting with that. And then through that you'll realize consciousness and how it all fits in. I'm going to cover some aspects around consciousness and sort of ideas of some of the philosophers around that and some of the sciences behind that as well, just so that you get a bit of a picture of what the whole idea of consciousness is as well, and then how that ties into belief systems, and then how that I'm doing a bit of work on sort of human development from ages 0 to 21. We're not going to go hectically into detail with that, but I'm going to give you some tidbits on things of how you experienced life as you were growing up, and things that you needed at certain ages and certain developmental stages, and where they might be lacking, where they might be too much, where they might be compromised. And these are things that one can actually then essentially pay attention to, and you can give them to yourself. So you can actually, you're never too old to kind of learn these things. But you can then realize the effects of that on how your belief systems form, and then how your habits and all these things actually are set up in life. The idea of consciousness is literally, again, becoming conscious of them as to how they're actually sitting, what kind of health implications there are, what kind of relationships you work with, what kind of habits you have that work or don't work for you.
Would that also contribute to the essentially the concept of the company you keep? Would that also be connected to the belief systems?
I'm going to work with the environmental things there as well. So we're going to cover some of how the environment impacts, which is all people, situations, stuff that we do. And we're also going to be covering the impact of the human biology and some of the research that actually sets where these things actually are impacting on our biology. So there's some interesting researchers that have been out there for quite a long time now, actually, and they've got very good validations of how the company we keep has an impact on us. So things actually change in our systems.
From a physiological perspective,
from a health, well-being, strengthening perspective, regenerative perspective. Yeah.
So, like, if I can ask a question in relation to, if I can say, for example, two of the main topics that come through in a lot of the clients that I've been working with is we've got often the concept of working with either the relationship with money, or either having money and then as soon as money's there, money's gone. So are those working with similar concepts of belief systems, that you've essentially structured a certain way that you work with things, and then being aware of that you can learn how to work with it differently? Or like with relationships as well, constantly being in faulty or dysfunctional relationships, are those all literally based on the source of what your belief systems are about?
Yeah, it's a bit more complex than that, but when it comes to the money thing, I think some people are just allergic to money, so they just don't have it much. So money is actually an interesting thing, which I'll cover things like money and also things like love.
Yeah.
And the sort of, it's how we view that and how we work with that. So, money can play a role in literally how you validate yourself or value yourself.
Yeah, perceived value.
So it's perceived value. The other time it could be, you could be addicted to what money brings you. So it's kind of like addicted to buying stuff because you just feel good buying things. But there's oftentimes driving mechanisms behind that. And if you can break through that, it can change that experience. Does it make sense? It's not necessarily that experience needs to change, because if you have lots of money coming in and you can spend a lot and it's like you're playing that game, then that's fine. But yeah, so the money issue's got different layers to it. There are people that actually work with their credit cards, and if their credit card gets to zero, they go and spend on it. So it never goes into the other side. So it's like they can't have it at zero. So it's kind of...
I don't know who those people
like,
are.
And it doesn't help that we have internet shopping these days either. So it's like you can just whack it into your phone and there you go.
So,
but what we're trying to work with here is not to it's not about like destroying things, breaking things down.
Yeah.
It's not around resisting things, but it's
Just
more
being
around.
aware.
It's more, your consciousness helps you to understand how to work with things, you see.
Okay.
So when you understand the belief systems you're working with, what belief systems are, how they can affect you, the idea is not to create panic. It's not about that. It's just great information, and the world today is very much moving into this phase of understanding humanity, human nature, the way kind of things are going. It helps us also understand when, you know, countries are in difficult spaces or places are prospering, and you can sort of see how it works in relation to how the belief system can form your attitude towards things, if that makes sense. So there's also ways where you can have, you know, where the people speak about positive and negative side of things, and some of your belief systems could make you use positivity as an avoidance. So I'm going to be covering around the healthy way of working with positive and negative as well, because there is a healthy way and then there's an unhealthy way. So the one is literally interacting with it from a perspective of functionality, which is what we need these belief systems to impact us with. Our consciousness is that expression, and that's expressed through our experiences, belief system stuff that happens, the things we do in life.
So I want to just quickly touch on, you mentioned the stages of development through human development, essentially. So if you can just give us an example of that. So say, for example, what the age of our little ones, so say, what are the different age groups, 0 to?
So they
just to give a bit of understanding around that.
They're going to a few different phases, and it's sort of an overlap. So it's not an exact, you know, 1 to 5 and 5 to 7 or whatever. But there's these phases that the child goes through, where they'll go through, say for instance, the early years is all about discovering and waking up to the manifest reality here. So that's your kind of like, you know, little babies to toddlers kind of thing. Then they go into what they call the beautiful phase. So the beautiful phase where everything is actually just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And if that's supported well during their upbringing and during the way that they work with things, then they actually develop a lot of confidence from that. So they're more open to actually kind of like be connected to things, because they find beauty in things. If we teach them that it's horrible and they mustn't do it the whole time, then that's going to form a set of belief systems which will suppress that, and that can mess up their creativity. So later on in life, for instance, if they need to kind of like, say for instance, be creative in a business plan, they're not going to be able to they're not going to have interest, and they're going to feel insecure, and then they may not even participate in that, you see. So then they might not follow kind of like an inspiration that's come to them. So it's literally we're going to go through the basics of the different phases like that. If there's interest, I want to actually do one that's like a full day, where we actually we'll go through the whole life cycle with that, and then do a bit of exercises to just help stimulate each phase, so that one can have a real living experience of that, which is often a valuable exercise to do as well.
And then there's another section on the course that I was particularly interested in, because it's a lot what I'm working with at the moment, is the effects or interaction with trauma in the body, and how to, if you can just give a bit more information as to how, because you've specifically brought that into this workshop. And just from I mean, trauma can be anything. It's an experience. So it doesn't need to be these life-altering experiences to actually be categorized as a trauma for it to be biologically influencing. So exactly. So how have you brought that into the relativity to this workshop?
The trauma theme is probably like a week's work, you know. So it's huge. A lot of things. So it's not really trauma therapy that we're going to work with here, but we're going to look at how the trauma sets the body up to respond to things, how it gets the brain to start interacting with things, and how it forms pictures, and you know, and then how that actually then sets off into neural habits, and then it influences the biology of the system. So we're going to look at sort of different facets of that. In the energy system that we're working with, we have very powerful techniques to actually release this trauma from tissue, from bone, from muscle, from whatever. And it's quite amazing to actually see how it actually just, when you interact with that thing, how it can actually just set that thing free, and sets all the interactions and connections that the person has in its threads with that, so it can sort of overlap into a trauma response, but it's 7 traumas that they've had over their lifetime period before the response actually comes in. So it becomes like a triggering factual build-up that actually occurs, and then it'll have a little cherry on the top, and then stuff will start to happen. And then there's other phases where you could actually, I'll cover the scientists that worked with that as well there, but where there's stuff that happens, and then about 3 years later you can actually have a response, and then it takes you 2 to 3 years to, if it's supported, to actually work through that, and that can actually form disease, so it can actually seat in a lot of discomfort in the body.
And then when you talk about triggers, what is a trigger?
A trigger is just something that you're reacting to.
Okay.
It's like we respond to life is healthy. Responding to life is healthy, where you have an experience and then your brain's assessing it, and it's kind of like being able to identify the belief systems associated with that. So it's kind of like if you look at something like a fear of spiders. So you'll get some people that will have spiders crawling on big things, crawling on their face like this, and I'll do that. But anyway, my belief systems don't work so lucky with that one. And then others, you just show them a picture of a spider like that, and they're out the room. They're stuck on the door like a spider. And that's the trigger. The trigger would be the spider. The spider would be then associated with the memory of fear, which is buried in the subconscious. And then the subconscious will scream out to that thing is dangerous, and then your whole system kicks in and starts to create this reaction that you have. Yeah, and the reactions can be, there's all the fight flight type things, so it can be anything from becoming very aggressive, where you're going to be into the fight mode for it, so you want to fight that spider and just smash it or something like that, or you'll go into the run away, so you'll run out the room. Some people just pass out, so it just depends on their levels of fear.
Okay, so also just why I feel so excited about this course. I mean, we've been wanting to run this guy for a while now, and what I'm quite excited about is to actually just learn a bit more information about how I function, and to kind of get not the confirmation, but more like a reassurance to almost feel that exactly how I'm working has a place, and that it has almost like a reason for being there, and that's fine. And if I want to change that experience, and I want to work with my life differently, or just with anything differently, to actually understand that I have the option to interact with that, and to start going down that kind of adventure.
Yeah, look, this workshop as well is very interesting that way, because it's the way I've set it up is kind of like a culmination of a mixture of things. So it doesn't have like a set, this is our goal kind of thing. So every time I've run this, the experience has been different. It's almost one of those that you can do it 5 times and you'll have a different experience each time. Yes. And it's also kind of it becomes symbiotic with the group of people that we have, and then the kind of things that are literally kind of lit up for them, and then how the interactions come in. So it's not, we're not going to sit there and just, it's me lecturing you, this is how this all works and everything. It's not that. The idea is we're going to work with some information, and then see the way that everybody responds in the room. I, for myself, have also noticed with this same workshop is that every time I do it, there's something new that actually becomes conscious. Yeah. So I become more and more connected to the things around me every time I actually work with that. And it's quite an evolving thing, so I'm not finished with it. It seems to be, there's a lot of things that I would like to put in that. So one day is actually too short for it. So, but we'll work with it up to that point, and then, whatever we need to break through into another day, I'll set up a second to that.
Fantastic. So the course is running on Saturday the 26th of October. It's called Consciousness in Wonderland. If you are interested in receiving more information on the course, please pop us a message below, or send us an email, or contact us via our Facebook or website address. It's a really dynamic and really very interesting course. I've been watching the information coming through for the workshop, and I'm getting more and more excited. So I hope that you can join us and be part of the experience and be part of the opportunity to make the changes that you haven't been either aware that need to come through, or that you haven't been quite sure how to work with. And in the same breath, realizing that there are certain aspects that you have maybe perceived to be needing change, but they're actually very much in service of you, and how to engage and work with that prosperity within your life, and how just to make things a part of who you are, or you a part of how things are. So yeah, have you got anything else to add before we close out?
Lots. We can be here for days, but let's not do that.
Let's not do that. Okay, so have a really beautiful evening, and I hope you're all well, and thank you for joining us tonight. If you've got any questions, please send them through to us and we'll gladly reply. But thanks so much for joining us, and love, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks guys. Bye.
Thank you.